Mazda's new flagship SUVs, the CX-70 and the 3-row version, the CX-90, come with two exciting powertrain options, a 3.3-liter inline-6 turbocharged engine or this inline-4 plug-in hybrid version. Now, we've already tested the 3.3 Turbo S in the CX-90 form on our highway fuel economy test, but does this plug-in hybrid model stand a chance to do any better cruising on the highway without using the EV mode? Well, tonight we find out. Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and tonight we've got the real-world highway fuel economy test on the 2025 Mazda CX-70 plug-in hybrid. In this test, we're going to head out on the highway and do 50 miles out and 50 miles back, averaging 70 miles per hour, to get a realistic fuel economy number for this plug-in hybrid vehicle. Now, before we get started, let's hop out and take a look at it. Beautiful paint color for this one. Like I said, the CX-70 and the CX-90, essentially the same vehicle, just the CX-90 coming with the third row in the back. This one coming with just 2 rows, but still the same powertrain options and the same shape. Now, interestingly enough, according to the EPA, the 3.3-liter, the non-plug-in hybrid, actually has better fuel economy ratings than the plug-in hybrid. So if you are going to do a longer trip and you extinguish your electric driving range, then you are expected to not get quite as good fuel economy with this one as the inline-6. So it's going to be interesting to test it out, see what sort of numbers we get here in the real world, because as we all know, the EPA's testing is not exactly realistic when it comes to steady state highway driving. But if you do want to see any more on the CX-70 or the CX-90, check the link below. We've got a full review, a review of the Bose sound system, a little infotainment breakdown. All that can be found below. So why do we do this test? Well, as I said a minute ago, the EPA's highway fuel economy test, which gives this version of the CX-70 27 miles per gallon on the highway, you got to dig a little bit to find that number on their website, that test only averages 48 miles per hour. And we know there are plenty of people who do long driving distances and would like to know what sort of numbers you can realistically expect here in the real world. So in order to test that out, we're going to do our standard test. We're going to go to the gas station tonight. I'm going to do the testing at night in order to avoid traffic. We're going to fill up. We're going to go out and do 100 miles, come back, fill up at the same pump using the same 3-click fueling method, and get a result. Now, plug-in hybrid vehicles are difficult to test for a number of reasons, because there are a number of different ways that people choose to use their plug-in hybrid powertrains. Some people will just charge it up at home all the way, will do all their driving on electric, and then switch over to hybrid once that's extinguished and continue on their way. And I suspect that's how Mazda wants and expects people to use these powertrains, because there isn't an EV hold option. There's an EV charge option, which we're in now, and then there is a normal drive mode, which will prioritize electricity but use the gas motor when you need to accelerate very quickly. But there's no method like in the Toyotas where you can just put it into EV hold mode and drive it like a normal hybrid vehicle without depleting your battery supply. So when you head out on the highway to do a road trip, essentially what's going to happen is you're going to burn through all of your EV within 18 miles or so. It's really not that large of a battery, and this is a fairly large vehicle. It's not super efficient. We've been averaging 1.9 miles per kilowatt hour on electricity. And then you're going to switch over to full gasoline for the rest of your trip. So if you're doing something like a 500-mile road trip, there's going to be a very small percentage of that trip that's being assisted by the plug-in functionality. All of the rest of that is just going to be running as a standard hybrid gasoline only. So that's why we're going to be doing this test with a fully depleted battery. I head to the gas station and the battery's all the way drained out, and then we continue on and just do the test like a standard gasoline car. So outside of that first 20 miles or so, where yes, if you're doing those first 20 miles, leaving your house full charge, that's going to be totally different. I'm talking after you deplete that, what sort of fuel economy can you expect from this car? Other things to note for tonight, outside temperature will be about 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and our tire pressures have been set to their door placard. I think it was 36 PSI. Let me double check. Yes, 36 PSI cold. And we're going to run the climate control at 73 degrees auto. So without any further ado, let's head to the gas station. all settled in here in the evening. We put in 2.778 gallons for our initial fill. I'm going to reset the vehicle's trip computer. Did it once already, but we'll do it again right there. And we got our GPS reset. Tire pressures are set, 36 psi, cold. Oh, climate control at 73, auto. We're ready to begin. We do have a few different drive modes here in the CX-70. We got Sport, Normal, EV, and Off-Road. Obviously, EV is unavailable right now. And actually might be kicking in the heater a little bit with this 59-degree temperature. Theoretically, shouldn't really affect fuel economy. I don't know for sure how the CX-70 plug-in hybrid makes heat. I would imagine at this point, since we're running on the internal combustion engine, I'd hope it would just take from there. But if you're running on battery, I don't know if it has a heat pump or anything, or resistive heater, or if it just fires up the motor to make heat. The Christmas lights are up. It's getting to that time of year. Got some decorations over there too, that's fun. Now, fun fact, I am actually shooting this on Thanksgiving Day, so don't act like I'm not dedicated to my work. It's partially just because plenty of time at home. In-laws are watching a movie and digesting their food, and traffic is light, so hey, make hay while the moon shines, I guess. But like always, the goal of this test is not to hypermile. We're not trying to get the best possible fuel economy out of this car, but rather a realistic figure. In order to do that and get up to highway speed here at a reasonable pace, we're going to set our cruise control at a GPS indicated 71 miles per hour. That should allow us to average 70 over the whole test. Let's hope we don't have any drunk drivers out here tonight, or at least if there are, hopefully they're not around me. Looks like our speedometer is pretty accurate. 70, about 71 on the dash, giving us 70 on the GPS. I think we're going to end up settling in around 72. There we go, 72 on the dash. Oh, that's actually giving us 72 on the GPS, so maybe we'll be settling in at a high 71. Yeah, that should still be fine. We're probably going to have a pretty comfortable moving average here tonight. Got some self-driving right here. Test that out throughout the night. We're also going to be testing the Bose sound system with some members-only tracks. Check the link below if you want to see that. Initial highway impressions. The motor is essentially non-existent. By motor, I mean the internal combustion engine. You do hear that road noise, a little bit of wind noise as well. We are on a concrete section of highway, but Alright, I'm going to settle in, turn up the members-only tracks, and check in with you at the end. In the meantime, enjoy this time lapse of the entire trip. Coming into the end of the highway fuel economy test here in the CX-70 plug-in hybrid. Well, it turns out I was a bit naive to think that the traffic would stay light throughout the night. I saw perfectly green Google Maps about 2 hours ago at my house, and then within 10 minutes of setting out on the highway there was an accident. We were slowed down for a few minutes. You've got a ton of people sitting in the left lane just cruising at about 67 miles per hour, as you regularly get, and general traffic for 4 to 5 lane construction areas. So, still a bit frustrating there. Also interesting, 29.8 miles per gallon according to the vehicle's readout. That is actually lower than the readout than we had in the CX-90 Turbo S model. Now that CX-90 Turbo S ended up calculating at the pump at 29 flat, but if this CX-70 handles it the same way and reads higher than its actual pump calculation, plug-in hybrid will end up getting worse highway fuel economy than the Turbo S. Now, I know I mentioned we had a few of those slowdowns. Our average speed is not nearly as high as some of the other tests. Our moving average at 66 miles per hour. However, this being a hybrid, I think the effects are fairly negligible. I kind of kept an eye on the average fuel economy readout. It didn't fluctuate much as we were driving in traffic the second time. The first time it did go up a few miles per gallon. So if anything, this result might end up being a little bit higher than what you'd really get in the real world, just cruising nice, easy, steady state, 70 miles per hour. But still interesting that the Turbo S might get better fuel economy. But, I mean, hybrids don't really have much advantage when just cruising steady state on the highway. And a larger engine with a little bit more power down low might not have to shift as much, and it might be a little bit more efficient. Either way, we're going to get it back to the pump. I'm going to fill it up and record my numbers. We're going to crunch the numbers in the daylight and wrap up our thoughts on the car. But we got to do a quick tack shot, and in order to do that, I had to switch the car over to sport mode, dialed it back up to top gear into 8th, and then took a photo here. You can see just cruising a little bit above 2,000 RPM at 71 miles per hour. And that is a fairly comfortable car to be in. Active lane keeping, not quite as confident as I wanted it to be. You'll have your hand on the steering wheel and still find yourself kind of drifting out of the lane if you're not really paying good attention. So not quite as on it as some of the other newer systems, but also not particularly intrusive either. So give and take. All filled up last night at 3.417 gallons. So we're gonna open up our calculator here and do 103 miles traveled, 100.3 miles traveled divided by 3.417 gallons is giving us, 29 miles per gallon. So a little bit more accurate this time between the vehicle's readout and what we're getting on the pump, and actually a little bit better than the EPA expected. So 29 miles per gallon for gasoline-only fuel economy here in the Mazda CX-70. Now, we virtually have the same size fuel tank in the plug-in hybrid version as opposed to the 3.3 inline 6. And Mazda probably did that because they know that you're going to need about the same amount of fuel to go the same distance. So 18.4 gallon tank in here times 29 miles per gallon. It's giving you an effective gasoline-only cruising range of 530 miles for the CX-70. And obviously you can buffer that a little bit with a little bit of electricity. So what do you guys think? Is that worth getting the inline 4 over the inline 6? Now, it's interesting to point out that part of the reason that the inline 6 is just as efficient as the inline 4, even in daily driving, is because that's a mild hybrid setup as well. So you're still getting some degree of electrification assistance. And if you're not planning on plugging this vehicle in regularly, or if you do more than, say, 40, 50, 60 miles of driving in a day, you're probably not going to see any benefit from getting the plug-in hybrid. But I could see certain people, shorter commute, and especially if you have cheap electricity at home, definitely seeing the benefits from having the inline 4. But I think after spending time with both of the powertrains, the driving dynamics of the inline 6, for me, justify the difference in fuel costs, if you will. And even especially if you're not going to charge that regularly, not going to be that dramatic. Although it is also worth pointing out that this does require, or at least recommend, premium fuel, so you can save a good bit of money that way by plugging in each day. I don't know, it's nice to have the choice, I suppose. But thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the CX-70, check the link below, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.